We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. By the time you hear this, it will be Friday. We're recording this Thursday night. Got a special treat for you. We've got a guest on that you've never seen before. He's a brand new guest. His name is Eppy, and this is a first for the podcast, too. This is the first time that we have somebody who actually lives in Mexico. He has roots here in the United States, but he lives in Mexico at this point. We've had people from Canada, but our first from Mexico. Eppy, thank you for taking the time to come on. I'm anxious to hear what your perspective is as somebody who's living in Mexico.
Thank you, Mike, and it's a pleasure being with you.
I want to ask you how it is you found yourself here. You know, I do the podcast, I do the TikToks, and I hear from a lot of people. Uh, you're a man of a certain age. You're a little older than I am. You are living in Mexico at this point. What drew you to this whole community of the people that are around what we're doing with the podcast and the TikToks?
Back in what is it, 2022, April 2022. My wife and I we lived in Roswell, New Mexico, and my wife she's since passed. She passed
Oh,
in
sorry.
December. Thank you. She passed in December 2022. And we moved to Tucson so she could be closer to her family in Mexico. So while living here, I do a lot of walking in the morning. I go out and walk. So I thought I thought I listened to some podcasts, and yours came up. So I started listening to it, and you and most of your topics were politics, which I'm into, and that's how I started out listening to you on my morning walk.
So you got sucked into listening to a fall mouth gringo, right?
And that's what I like about you, because you're straightforward, and
Yeah.
you don't hold no punches.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's kind of how I've been all my life. And some people love it, and a lot of motherfuckers hate it. But I don't care. I am who I am. Why don't you tell folks how this all started? You're living in Mexico. You're a Hispanic man. You were you born in Mexico?
No, I'm Dominican. We
Okay.
came back in 1965. My father went, and my father and my mother, they first came here. I believe it might have been like in 1962. They came to the States, and then they got their green card. So back in '65, my father went back and got myself and my siblings, brother and sister, and we came in January of '65, and that's how we've been here since.
And it sounds like when we were talking beforehand, you've lived in several parts of the country, East
Ye-
Coast, West Coast.
Correct. Yes, I have lived in New York City, Massachusetts, and then a little bit of California. Then from California to Florida, and then I lived in the state of Washington for a short time too.
Now, when
Mm.
you and your family got here, and your brother, your siblings, and such, did you guys end up getting citizenship here in the States? Or are you still
Yes, we
Dominicans?
no, we were still Dominican. I got my citizenship back in the '80s during the Bush administration, the elder Bush administration. That's when I got
Mhm.
my citizenship. I cannot recall when my brother and sister got theirs.
So you have family in the States because you've lived most of your life in the States, but you find
Correct.
yourself in uh, in Mexico, and you're kind of right at the border of Mexico and Texas, right?
Not Mexico and Texas, Mexico and Arizona.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, that makes sense. And how did you find yourself back in Mex? I won't say back in Mexico because you're not from Mexico. You're from Dominican Republic. How did you find yourself in Mexico after being in the United States so long?
Yeah, that's a good question. My wife and I, as I stated, uh, my wife and I, we when she passed, her Social Security, the government took that back. They stopped. They stopped. So I couldn't afford to rent in Tucson. So I had to look over here in Mexico to be able to.
Just so I understand this, when you become a certain age, 65 years old, you and your
Mhm.
wife both got Social Security. But when she passed away, you no longer got her Social Security. So that puts you in a different financial situation. And you
Correct.
just found it was more affordable to move to across the border into Mexico.
Correct. To be able to, I cross into Nogales, Arizona every Sunday. I go back every Sunday.
So, did you ever have any problem coming back and forth from Mexico
No, not at
to
all.
Arizona? Really?
No, not at all. All I have to do is just. I don't have the book, the passport book. I have the passport card. All I do is just give them that, and they wave me in.
And besides, there are no ice on the border anymore. They're all up here in fucking Minneapolis, for fuck's sake.
You know what? I saw one individual as I was crossing back into Mexico, an ICE agent, just one. That's what I saw. But no, they're mostly CPS or CPB.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
border control. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, from where you are down there in Mexico, no doubt you've been hearing some of the stories about what's going on in the interior of the country. Minneapolis
Hmm.
specifically, and I live in a suburb of Minneapolis, was raised right around that area growing up. Um, what's your perception of what's going on up there? I mean, it seems scary and crazy to a lot of people here, but as somebody sitting on the outside of the country, what are you seeing?
Crazy, but it's predictable, but it's crazy because he 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 projected that during the campaign, and people still didn't listen. And what saddened me, Mike, is the Latin community, the way they turned on the vice president.
Yeah, you. If you've listened to the podcast, you've no doubt heard Will, who is
Uh-huh.
a Hispanic man. He's a little irritated with uh, Latin folks that voted for Donald Trump and cannot understand it. I don't know if you know this. You heard the story of Alex Preddy being killed in
Yeah,
Minneapolis?
I follow the news pretty much.
Okay. But did you know that? Well, I'm sure you did. The two, it just seems ironic to me that the two CPB or Border Control or
Uh,
whoever they are that shot him happened to be Hispanic folks.
his,
Uh,
I just learned that. I just learned that they were Hispanics.
yeah, and that doesn't make them any less or any more guilty, but the video shows that whoever did it was obviously committing murder. How long ago did you move out of the United States into Mexico?
Back in, I think it was like around September 23, on that time, September 23.
So you had some time under Donald Trump's first term, but you were sitting on the outside of the country um, when he took his second term. What was your
Hmm.
perception of Donald Trump in the first term and in between when Biden was president?
To me, he's a con man, and I've always, another thing I should make clear, Mike, is I've always voted Democrat back down the line. Uh, I started watching the news back in the '60s during the Vietnam War. That's when I
Right.
really started getting into the news when all the demonstrations were going around the country and universities. That's when I remember I used to go and watch the evening news, mostly CBS and NBC at the time. And that's when I really started getting into or becoming more aware of politics. But then back to your question, I've always, Trump, he's a con man, and he's not even a good salesman, but
No, he's not. He's not a
uh,
smart man. I mean,
no,
that's the,
mhm.
that's the thing I don't understand. People like you and I, maybe it's because of our age, I could see instantaneously because I knew people like him that he was a con man and he
Mhm.
was a problem. You and I get that, but so many people just buy into the bullshit. I wish I was selling used cars because apparently there's a lot of dumb motherfuckers who will buy anything.
Or a bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So what you mentioned you were watching the news in the 60s, and I was too. I'm a little younger than you, but I often compare, and it's maybe not a fair comparison. People always say, we got so much trouble, there's so many things going on, and we'll never recover from this. And I seem to remember, for as much as I can, for being as young as I was, the 60s were kind of like that too. I mean, we had a lot of problems. We had four
Uh,
major assassinations. We had the
uh-huh.
Vietnam War. We had riots, civil rights, war protest. It was a crazy time,
Crazy
not
time.
unlike it is now. Maybe it's different, but that's the one thing that gives me some hope is that we got through that. I'm sure we'll get through this.
Uh-huh. I, 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 I feel it the same too. You know, um, we will, and it was back in the '60s during the demonstration. I remember vividly the Kent State
Yep.
shooting
Right.
when that happened, and there was a lot of outcry, because these young people were shut down in daylight, and with no provocation. They were they were shut down, and it's the same thing here now. But what really saddens me is like I understand these two young people were shut down in cold, and it was filmed. But
Right.
there was another gentleman that I believe was killed during I can't remember if it was during a good or the pretty incident, but he was a young black man,
Right.
and the news don't mention him at all. That's what saddens me about it.
Well, that's the troubling thing. There were people shot and even killed in Chicago too, but they were either happened to be brown or immigrants.
Uh huh.
And you got coverage of it, but not like the coverage of the
Uh-huh. That good.
Alex Preddy or Good. And it is really the essence white privilege, I guess, or racism to a certain extent. If a brown person gets shot, that's bad. If a white person gets shot, holy shit, we've got to stop everything. Um, and that is a little troubling because anybody who's not racist don't look at people to be different depending on the color of their skin. I look at the people's color of their skin similar to the color of their hair or the color of their eyes. It makes no fucking difference. It's
Uh huh.
just and anybody with common sense would understand that. Now, um, with how do you think? The funny thing is that they said they're trying to make it appear that things are tailing off in Minneapolis. They said the other day that they got rid of Greg Bovino, that little fucking Nazi. He's out in California now, and they put in Tom Homan, who is what I call the Timu Fred Flintstone because he's a big, goofy, stupid motherfucker. But and they're trying to make it sound like they're going easier on Minneapolis. They send home 700 troops. We'll go, wow, they're sending home 700 troops. Yeah, but they left 2,300 here. It's still occupying force, and they aren't doing anything any differently. They are still being as vicious and kicking in doors
Uh
and
huh.
that sort of thing. As somebody who spent most of his life in America, did you? I know I found it disturbing seeing stuff like this. I always believed the Constitution had a lot of power and a lot of strength, and now I question that because they keep violating the Constitution. Nothing ever happens.
Yeah, and it's mind-boggling because supposedly these guys, once they like as anybody that works for the government, they take an oath, and you think they will abide by that oath, but for some reason I don't know what this orange orangutan has on people that that they obey him blindly.
Yeah. I get people even today, and I said this going into this term too. If you've seen what you've seen and you've heard what you've heard, and you still support this guy, you clearly are in a cult, you're misinformed, or you're as bad as he is. That's the only three options you could possibly be because he's done so many things. He's committed corruption and crimes, and it just doesn't seem to matter to a certain amount of people. And I find that troubling. I find that concerning. Thankfully, it's a small portion of this country, but right now they have control, so we're having to deal with their bullshit.
Uh-huh. And that's the way I feel too. That you would think that these people that sign up for the work for the government, they would follow that sacred oath. And I remember back in I can't remember if it was back in the '60s or '70s, the Republican Party would cry "better dead than red," and yet
Right.
look at it.
Yeah, that was a phrase. Better dead than red. And you look back to when we were younger, in our 20s, when Ronald Reagan, who they all look up to, that's their idol,
Yeah,
Ronald Reagan. We were around when he was in office, and if Ronald Reagan saw some of the things that the Trump administration is doing, Ronald Reagan had probably kicked Donald Trump's ass because he wasn't standing for Russians at all. He wasn't complicit with Russians at all.
uh, not at all. He was a staunch anti-communist, or the one that would follow the Constitution. But Ronald Reagan too. I don't remember him much as a movie star or as a governor of California. I just remember him being running for the presidency. And I
Yeah,
knew too. I would argue with my father about him that he was the one dumbass white guy, or he didn't. The only thing Ronald Reagan that I liked about him, he had communication skill. But other than
he
that,
did.
he was not a savvy political person at all.
Well, I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. 1980, I was 20 years old. I voted for
Mhm.
president for the first time. I was looking at Jimmy Carter and how bad the economy and gas prices and all that stuff. I'm thinking we need a change. So I voted for Ronald Reagan. And I regret that in retrospect. But as a 20-year
Uh-huh.
old kid, I had no idea what we were getting
Uh-huh.
into. Ronald Reagan essentially was the starting point to where we are now. He was the one that kicked it off, and because of the way he was and what he how he governed, that's one of the reasons we have a Donald Trump now, and why this process of Project 2025 and all this other stuff that started back in '80 with uh, with Ronald Reagan. It was just a
With the
long
heritage.
process.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think we knew how dangerous he was at that point. Now the economy got better. He was a good communicator. We didn't have 24-hour news services. Don't you think that has a little bit to do with what's going on too? It used to be, you talked about CBS. You and I watched Walter Cronkite. The
Uh-huh.
craziest thing people would not understand today is that Walter Cronkite on CBS as a newscaster was was revered as the most
Uh-huh.
trusted man in the country.
The voice of America, huh? Hmm.
Right. Now,
Hmm.
which media anchor would you say is the most trusted man in the country? I don't think any of them are trustable. Trusted.
Today, none. I followed I used to follow MSNBC, which is it's called MS now, I believe.
Right.
But since Mike, I usually follow the black community, and that's how I started the politics. Um, or getting into the politics of this country, and because the black community back in the '80s, they sensed that Ronald Reagan was a racist, and I didn't know much about him, like as I said before, but I sensed that the black community didn't like him at all, because some of his stance and social issues, but it is. It's mind-boggling. Hmm.
Well, you can maybe tell me better than I can say, but it was my contention. I grew up in the 60s, 70s. I came into my 20s in the 80s. Um, the way people look at racism today is different than they looked at it in the 60s and 70s. To me, racism was just kind of accepted. Yeah, of course, brown people are lesser than white people. That was kind of a given thing, even though we've been coming out of the really racist times, and we were trying to transition with the likes of Martin Luther King. Didn't you feel like racism was just like a given? As a person of Hispanic background, did you notice that in the
No,
60s and 70s?
no, I didn't, Mike. Maybe because of my age, but in school, I didn't see it. I didn't see it personally, and I was bullied a little bit in when in school in junior high school when we first came to this country, but it was mostly by other Latin kids, but
Oh, okay.
no white kids.
Well, that and where what part of the country were you in when you were in your single digits
New
and
York
everything?
City, New York City.
Okay. Well, New York City's
Mhm.
kind of a diverse area, but you said you spent some time in Massachusetts. That's got to be a whole different
Correct.
world.
In Massachusetts too. Yeah. I didn't. There was a large Hispanic community in Lynn, Massachusetts. I didn't sense any uh, uh, racism or prejudice from the white kids or the Spanish in the community in
What
school.
Yeah. What do you think about the state of racism in this country now? People would like to say that we're more racist than we've ever been. I don't think we're more racist than we've ever been. I just think they feel comfortable coming out because Donald Trump is the president. I
Correct.
think a lot of these people spent a lot of time under the rocks, hiding because it wasn't appropriate for them to come out. And then Donald Trump finally made it cool to be racist.
That's what I believe too, Mike. You know, um, there's a couple of indicators you can tell. Uh, a lot of the shows nowadays they're integrated. A lot of the movies are integrated. A lot of the commercials are integrated. You see a lot of more black people, Asian people in commercials, and so a lot of the industry. I agree with you. I don't think racism is as prevalent as back in the '60s. It's just that a certain demographic, like they come out when their saviors is up in a pedestal.
Right. Well, unfortunately, it kind of falls back on old people like you and me. We are the exceptions, maybe, but baby boomers are kind of a weird lot because when we were growing up in the 60s, the baby boomers were the ones out in the streets protesting the war,
Hmm.
walking for civil rights, participating
Correct.
in the free love while we were at home
Uh-huh.
watching TV because we were too young. But now these are the people that grew up and now become more racist and more protective of what they have. I just feel like When
Uh
they got
huh.
old and finally had some responsibility and had some wealth, they kind of put their arms around it and say, anybody coming near me has got to be the enemy. And they've changed their entire tone just by virtue of how old they became.
Uh, I think there's some truth to that. Uh huh. Hmm.
Okay. Um,
Hmm.
now you live in Mexico right now. Do you have plans to come back and live in the United States, or are you going to hang out there?
I'm gonna hang out here for a while. I think probably till the end of my time, but I do like as I said, I do cross every Sunday, so
Okay.
I go every Sunday and I do my shopping over there.
Okay. Um,
Hmm.
after having lived here all these years, when you see some of the things going on, um, what's your perspective about America? I mean, when you came here in the '60s, it was a much different place. Um,
A whole lot different. Mhm.
are you saddened by what you see in the United
And I'm
States?
saddened, because of what's happening. It didn't need to happen. That's what I'm
Right.
saddened about. Is you know I wish and a lot of people. I don't. There's a good commercial on TV with one of these actors, and I don't know if you've seen it. It's he's like a participant. There's like 4 or 5 or more participant up on stage, and they have an audience, and a young girl asked one of the participants, "What's so great about United States?" I think it's Jeff Bridges, if
Jeff
I
Daniels. Jeff
Jeff
Daniels. Yeah.
Daniels. And I love that commercial because it tells, it says a lot about the United States. He tells it straight out. United States. We were back in the '60s and '70s, maybe the '80s. United States was the country, the beacon of the
Right.
world. Everybody wanted to come to the United States, and it's shameful that everybody we're seen as a pariah now.
Well, that's
Nobody wants to. Hmm.
yeah. I've said that Donald Trump will constantly say, "Well, nobody's coming across the border now," and that's probably true. But we had to make this country suck in order for people. I mean, it's more dangerous for people to come to this country than probably staying where they are. So that's why people aren't coming, by making it more dangerous and more uh, egregious to immigration. We don't have as many people coming in. It's just unfortunate that we had to do it that way. It's probably not the best way to do it. There's a few stories out there now that are kind of troubling. There's one story, and I'm curious as to what you think about it. We hear about the Epstein files. We'll talk about that in a bit. We hear about deportations and all this stuff, but there's one story that I think is absolutely terrifying, as far as the fact that we don't know much about it yet. But we heard the story that there was a whistleblower who made a complaint against Tulsi Gabbard, and she's the head of national intelligence. It's a pretty important job. And this complaint was so earth shattering that Tulsi Gabbard, the Trump administration, and the lawyers locked it away in a vault, which is not what they're supposed to do with it. What they're supposed to do is bring it to Congress, and Congress is supposed to deal with it. Now, this has been sitting there for months, and now we know about it. And apparently, the Gang of Eight was going to be looking at it today, I believe, to see what it is. But they're not sure they're going to be able to see all of it because it's so bad. The problem I have with it is we have trouble with national security in this country in the first place. We don't know how bad it is. Does it involve Donald Trump when we're talking about Russia? Because we know that um, Tulsi Gabbard is probably a Russian asset. Um, will we ever find out about this? But don't you find that somewhat terrifying that people are so afraid to show Congress this because it could be devastating to national security, and we have a weak national security anyway? This kind of thing might be a bigger deal than the Epstein things.
And I haven't heard about this since you just mentioned it. This is the first time I heard of.
Well,
But
that's my
my
point. Most people haven't. A lot of people haven't heard about it, but we're going to be hearing about it sometime soon, and it's frightening.
my my thinking is it should come out to see how bad it is. And then maybe this could bring Trump down. It
Yeah.
seems like bring it out and let's face it. The United States, we have faced worse things than this in this country. And bring it out and see what is it about.
Well,
And whoever is
well, the
culpable,
pro
they pay the price.
well, they keep telling us no one's above the law, but that's
I
bullshit
know.
because the president is above the law, members of Congress, anybody who's rich and famous, they're all above the law. You've probably been following this Epstein files thing. Um, we had the recent release of the Epstein files,
Hmm.
and what I've and I don't know if you've heard any of the clips of it or read any parts of it. It is
No.
absolutely horrific. We're talking about the sexual assault of kids. We're talking about the murder of kids. We're talking about ridiculous abuse. And Donald Trump is tied into this. He's mentioned 5,300 times at least in these files. But they released these files because they felt better about these files than the 3 million they're holding back. How fucking
Uh-huh.
bad must they be? I mean, Jesus Christ.
And when they and if and when they get those 3 other millions, they get released. I don't know if they'll be able to be readable because this whole my understanding is that it's so redacted that I don't know if people will be able to uh, to see all the information in there.
Well, the interesting thing is Todd Blanche said that if people
He's
from
an
Congress
idiot.
or the Gang of Eight want to see the unredacted documents, they can come in and see it. And I know that some of them, Garcia and Massey and such, are going to go see the files unredacted because there are some names that are taken out of there that shouldn't have been taken out of there. Obviously, a cover for other wealthy and powerful people, but hopefully members, Democratic or Republican members of Congress, will be able to see this and will hopefully see some action. The, I mean, don't you agree that this all happened years and maybe decades ago? These people, regardless how powerful they are, they need to
Uh-huh.
be exposed for their crimes, if
Exposed.
for no
Mm.
other reason than to ruin. They may not go to jail, but at least we know who the fuck they are.
They'll have their name in public. They, whether be Democrat, Independent, or Republican, or the Green Party, or whatever other party, anybody that had anything to do with Epstein, they should be exposed and and face the consequences.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely, absolutely.
the priests on the Catholic churches face the consequences.
That seems to be the funny thing when we're talking about child abuse or that sort of thing, whether it be the Catholic Church or our government. I'm not even going to say Republicans because it's not just Republicans, it's Democrats and Republicans. And
Rich
I
people,
don't really,
huh?
yeah, rich people is really what it is.
Or or
They
well
need to
connected.
be exposed. Yeah, I mean, you can put some pressure on these people. I mean, we're hearing stories about um, uh, God, why can't I say it? The guy from Microsoft, Bill
Bill Gates.
Gates.
Bill
Yeah,
Gates.
you know, we know his wife divorced him, having somewhat to do with the Epstein connection. We
Oh,
know
is
he
that
shows
right?
up in the file. Yeah, oh yeah, she mentioned it, and she's been interviewed recently, and
Oh,
she says, I didn't like what he was doing with Epstein. She went to one party with Bill at Epstein's, and after that, she said, I don't want to come fucking back here, and you shouldn't either. But of course, he did
oh,
anyway, and he ends up divorced. And
yeah.
now this stuff is coming out. Now he's saying, "Well, I didn't do anything but have dinner with him." Right, motherfucker. You got money. You look like a creepy little fucker. I'm sure there's more to this shit.
uh, There was I, I had something on my mind. It'll probably pop up later on,
No,
but
that's all right.
you know, it's it's incredible to find out, how much influence this guy had. It's unbelievable. I mean, I was watching on TikTok this lady. She and in her background, she had all these names of people that were, that are they're in on these latest dump. That all these names that were there. You know, movie stars, show business people, business people. It's unbelievable the influence this guy had.
Well, and it's already starting to have an effect. We know that an ambassador from England was basically fired because he came out in the Epstein files. There is a lawyer that's one of the partners of one of the biggest law firms in the country. He had to step down. This is having some effects on people. Um, and like I say, if they never get prosecuted because of statute of limitations or whatever, they should be exposed and have to live with that stain on their reputation for the rest of their life. That's the very least that should happen to them.
That gave me an idea, Mike.
Okay.
They should be put in a corner with a sign ready reading something like, I was in the Epstein file, or I did this, so traffic, when traffic goes by, they look at them, like, if a thief breaks into or robs a delicatessen, and he gets caught. I believe, this is my belief, that that criminal, instead of going through the court system, which takes time and money, they should just put him in a corner, and and make him feel shame.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, a lot of these people may or may not be able to be prosecuted, but we should all know. What do they say? The best disinfectant is sunlight. Let everybody know who they are and what they are, and it'll
And
destroy their careers and their lives. But that's the least they can pay for the crimes they committed.
uh, another point I wanted to make, Mike, is the United States should follow some of these other countries, like, let's say, Brazil, like what Brazil did to the presidential candidate when they found out that he was doing all these crooked things, and they put him on trial. They found him guilty. Now he's serving time. That's what Trump should be doing. I thought once a president was found guilty of a crime, a I thought the Secret Service detail would be taken away from him, because he's a felon now. But
Right.
that's not that's not the case.
Yeah. You obviously heard that the Republicans have been pushing very hard to have Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton
Yeah,
testify in
yeah,
Congress, and that's coming up toward the end of the month. Hillary on the
uh-huh.
26th, Bill on the 27th. I get a feeling with that situation that they may be sorry for asking for that. Bill and Hillary are smart people, and the Oversight
Uh-huh.
Committee not so smart. If they're ready to testify, I think some shit's going to pop off that they aren't going to be happy about regarding Donald Trump.
And I hope they do. I, I hope they do come out with something. And not only that, Mike. Once Congress, the Democrats, they take over the House. I don't know. The Senate is iffy, but once they take over the House, I hope these guys, they grow balls. I mean, good balls, and
Yeah.
and come after some of these you know the Trump family. Uh, you know.
Well, well, what they've said is, okay, you want to bring in a former president and a former secretary of state and the family of a former president, You set the precedent that they can be subpoenaed and expect to testify. I think Hakeem Jeffries or Rashkin came out with something and said, you set the precedent. So when we get the
Uh-huh.
power in the House, we're going to subpoena Donald Trump, Don Jr., Eric, whoever else,
Gerard, whatever his name is.
Jared and Ivanka. Yeah.
Yeah, $2
Yeah.
billion, $2 billion, and this guy in Congress hasn't even been able to question him about it. I
No, and he's
mean,
still grifting money. Every time they do something with Qatar or Saudi Arabia, he's
uh-huh.
involved. So you know he's getting a cut. Donald Trump is making
Trump
money.
is.
Uh,
Hmm.
Jared's making money. They're coercing people into going into business with Don Jr. and Eric. It's 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 really silly because it's just such a big grift and it's so
And
blatant right in front of us.
and then they have the nerve to say Biden crime family. Can you believe that? The Biden
Yeah.
crime family. And here, here the Trump family acting like a capo from New York City,
But
a mafia
you know,
family.
people used to tell me that every accusation they make is a projection and it just means that they're committing those crimes. And I always thought that was stupid. If you're committing crimes, you don't want to talk about it at all. But as I watch this more and more, you know, before Donald Trump became president the second time, we heard from QAnon and all these people hearing these horrific stories about child abuse, Pizzagate, and eating kids and all that sort of stuff. And we go, that's fucking crazy. Why are you doing that? Now that we're seeing the Epstein files, that crazy
Mhm.
shit that they were saying seems to be exactly what they were fucking doing. And it just amazes me that we're being exposed to QAnon was right, but they were right with blaming the wrong people. This horrific stuff is going on.
It's going on, and we, the American public, they, I don't know what to say because, they said the Democrats can't do anything because they're not in power. But from what I understand, the Democrats, they can, I don't know, they can bring some bills to the floor and do something until the House uh, caves in.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of them saying, well, we're not in power, just vote in 2026 and then we'll be able to take care of this. To me, that's not an acceptable answer.
Uh-huh.
If you can't do anything else, take a lesson from the Republicans and do what the Republicans did. The Republicans,
That's
they're just
my
loud and they
problem with
keep
the
talking about it.
Democratic Party that
Yeah.
they don't grow enough balls to or cojones to to replicate.
Yeah, and I think we've got people who think the Democratic Party is weak because that's how they appear. Their popularity rate is very low, and that makes people concerned. They're thinking they're going to vote Republican instead of Democrat because they don't like the Democrats, but that's not true. Um, but they're showing their displeasure with the Democratic Party. And I've said, what we need to do, if you want a different perspective on the Democratic Party, we need stronger leaders. We got to get rid of Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and some of these other people. We need somebody with a voice and
I
somebody
think
who's willing to
Hakeem
fight.
Jeffrey, he's a good person, but you know he hasn't proven himself yet because he hasn't had the chance to hold the gavel. But and I hope once he takes control of the house, I hope that he grows some cojones big enough, to challenge the Republicans. You
Well,
know,
I hope that's true. But my problem with Hakeem Jeffries is the same reason I have a problem with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. These people take APAC money. They
uh-huh.
bend to the
Hmm.
oligarchs. And while they are Democrats, they're still, these are the people who are keeping us away from universal health care because they're in tight with the lobbies for the insurance and medical and pharma and stuff. There are people on the Democratic side that aren't doing us any favors. But we've
Hmm.
got to vote the Democrats in before the Republicans. And then once the Republicans are out, we got to focus on shoring up the Democrats and getting the right people in the right places.
You remember? You remember Hillary Clinton, personal secretary, that lady, that her husband, he was in Congress. He was a representative from New York. Wiener, I think his last name was Wiener.
Oh, Wiener.
He, yeah, he was voted out because some, indiscretion he did in the computer with some young lady, I believe.
Well, he was sending
Uh,
dick pics.
I liked, uh, I liked him for the short time I saw him. I liked him because he used to challenge the Republicans. He used to get
Yeah.
in their face, and
Yeah.
you know, but he was stupid person. They don't. I guess once they get in Congress or they yield a little power, it goes over their head.
Well, some people don't know how to handle power. I won't say every politician is like that, but many of them get money and power, and they'll do and say anything to perpetuate that money and power. And
Hmm.
those people are flawed terribly, and unfortunately, it reflects on how this country runs. And we've got a lot of
Runs.
politicians that are a little less than ethical out there. How do you see? We're going into the midterms now, and it's looking like there might be a blue wave coming for the midterms. Are you feeling confident of that, given all that's going on?
I'm in the House. Yes, I am in the House. But the Senate, I would like to see the Senate too. Have the Senate flip, because if they flip, maybe we could get him out of here, pack his bags and ship him off to somewhere, Timbuktu. You know,
Do you think
put
that?
him
Do you think
somewhere in
that?
an island where he don't do no damage.
Do you think that if there is a blue wave in the midterms, that even the Republicans themselves will want to kick him to the curb because he's no longer an asset. He's nothing more than a liability.
I'm starting to see some cracks now, but I, I don't know. One of the things the Republicans have shown is like they're very
Yeah.
weak people. You know, and you're still going to have people follow him. To the end. To the end of the cliff. And my hope is that they turn. I I saw I saw a documentary about Roger Stone the other day. This lady on TikTok, she organized a group to see it, and at the end of the uh, the documentary, Roger Stone turned against Gerard. Gerard, I can't pronounce his name right. You know,
Kushner? You're talking about Jared
yeah,
Kushner?
yeah,
Yeah.
Jared Kushner. That he was hoping that the government will come after him for that $2 billion that he received.
Well, the one thing you can note about Republicans, and this is from Donald Trump on down, they have the people that side with them, but
Mhm.
if somebody contradicts them, they'll throw them under the bus quick as hell. There is no fucking loyalty at all.
Well, look at his past administration. Look at how many people how many lawyers have lost their licenses, and my hope is too when this administration is out. I hope the Democrats come strong against Bondi and his personal attorney, the
Todd
assistant,
Blanche.
yeah,
Todd
Carte
Blanche.
Blanche. Yeah, I hope they lose their license.
Well, almost everybody else that worked for Donald Trump ends up getting fired or losing their
Or
license.
their
Uh,
licenses.
I mean, based on what's going on, with Pam Bondi covering up the Epstein files, Cash Patel covering up the Epstein files, um, Pam Bondi and Christy Nome and the things they're doing with the deportations, they're constantly violating the um, the
Civil rights.
Constitution. and
Uh-huh.
civil rights in the Constitution. And and I think what they don't understand is they're not going to be in power forever. And when they're out of power, there's going to have to be some accountability for those crimes. Um, and it isn't out of the realm of possibility to see somebody like Pam Bondi or Christine Nome being prosecuted. That's distinctly
Yeah.
possible when you've committed those crimes.
Well, Richard Nixon's attorney general spent some time in jail. You know,
John Mitchell.
she should look into that. You know, study that case. Bondi should study that case so she knows what she's getting into. She's
You,
not
you know,
above the law.
no, she is not above the law, and she is without question breaking the law. There was a
Mm-hmm.
law passed through the House, through the Senate. Donald Trump signed it to release all
Hmm.
the files on December
Correct.
19th, and she's refused to do it. That right
Uh-huh.
there is a crime enough to be prosecuted for.
Uh-huh. You know, and she should look. You know, she should investigate. John, not investigate, but look into John Mitchell's downfall. You know, and
Yeah.
she could be heading that way. I hope they. I hope they have a good sell for her, or all
Well,
that makeup she uses.
her crimes are far more egregious than what John Mitchell did. I mean, the whole you were young at the time too, but you remember Watergate, and everybody
Uh
goes, you remember
huh.
how big a deal that was? It was on TV
Very
all the
big.
time. It was
Mm-hmm.
scandalous.
Uh huh.
When you look at that and how bad that was and how scandalous it was, it's maybe 10% of what's going on now.
Oh, it's a cakewalk compared to
Yeah.
this. It is. It's. I mean, Richard Nixon had nothing on Donald Trump. This
No.
this guy is he's going. You know, I guess Biden was has some blame to share for not for appointing what
Merrick
was his
Garland.
name, Attorney General.
Mer- Merrick Garland.
Yeah, I mean he just slow walked this prosecution to they could have this guy could have been serving 50 years or more in jail. I mean, if they, like I said, look at Brazil. Look at these
Yeah.
other countries that take Japan. I think Japan and Korea. They prosecuted ministers, prime ministers.
Yeah.
And they put them in jail. I mean, why are we so different?
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's a lot of cowardice going on in the in Congress, especially by the Republicans. Some people have suggested that the Republicans realize the end is near for them. It's going to be a lot of younger voters, and they aren't going to vote for Republicans. So the end is near. So this is just kind of a last minute smash and grab and trying to do as much damage as they can before they get kicked out permanently. You sense that too?
I sense this in this term, I sense it, but you know what, Mike? The pendulum will swing back again to the Republicans. And that's the sad thing about this country. Every rise that we have, every rise that we have, has been the Democratic Party that
Yeah,
has championed that. And the Republican Party, all they go in there and they they think they're going to pass some laws, but the only thing they do is like tax cuts,
yeah.
tax cuts. They really have no policies they can run on. The
Yeah,
Democrats,
do
at least, I'm sorry.
well, no. Why do poor people and people of color who see this vote for it? I mean, what is it that they say? I mean, we know all they do is give money to the rich and take money from the middle class. We're seeing that right now.
Um,
Why is it that people, white people of color, poor people, buy into that shit? I mean, it seems like simple.
I know. That's what's that's what's has me scratching my head literally. You know, the uh, that everything that we have in this country, and we should cherish and we should protect it. Look at the Supreme Court. They're looking into the civil rights
Yeah,
deal. They want to do away with that. They want to do away with election, the voting rights. We're going back, and we're going back like 40, 60 years instead of
yeah.
progressing forward. You know,
It's ironic that these people want to regress 60 years, and that's their platform and that's their strategy. I just don't understand how people buy into it. I've talked to Will about this many times about the Hispanic people that support Donald Trump, especially about the immigration. There seems to be a big concern with the Hispanic community that lives in the United States about immigrations. And I get the sense it's kind of like, well, we got here, we did it right, fuck everybody else, keep them out. Do you get that sense?
or yeah, and not only that, they have I think they have the mindset that they're coming from a country that has a dictator or some sort of heads of state that is controlling, and they see the Democratic Party as part of like a communist, you know, or a strong socialist ideology. But one if they do the studies or improve their education, they'll know or they'll come to find out that the Democratic Party is for social. Even though they're against social issues as the Republicans are, but we live in a social society, socialist society. Social security, all these programs that the United States has, and we able to use is the socialist programs.
Well, yeah, people, you got Mondami in New York who won as a Democratic Socialist, and they think, oh my God, socialist must mean communist. Not the same thing at all. And you're absolutely right about this country being socialistic. We've got Medicare, we've got
Uh-huh.
SNAP, we've got, simple things like police departments and fire departments and libraries. That's all socialistic.
Socialist
Um,
programs.
yeah, and I think it comes down when they say socialism, all they mean is don't give poor people money. Don't give don't give people of color money. I don't care if I get the socialistic stuff. It's just when you get the socialistic
Somebody else
stuff.
who just
Well, and it's the same thing we saw with this whole immigration thing and with Hispanic folks siding with Donald Trump. I think they were under the belief that that yeah, go get those illegal immigrants and kick them out, but you're not going to touch me because I support Donald Trump. They fucked around and found out on that one, didn't they?
big time, big time, and a lot of them are crying now. I should have done, I should have known, I should have. Uh, we keep repeating the same mistakes, Mike. I don't
We
know.
do.
This kind,
I will tell you this: in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, uh, they're looking for brown people more than they're looking for immigrants. And if white
uh-huh.
people get in the way, they'll shoot them too. It's not about immigration or even
No.
race so much. It's just anybody that's not them, and they will run over them if they can get away with it. And
Mhm.
that is the essence of authoritarianism, and
Uh,
we're experiencing it here in Minneapolis. Thankfully, people in Minneapolis and Minnesota aren't standing for this shit. They're standing up. They're pushing
Being
back,
strong, standing
and I hope
strong.
yeah, I hope this inspires other states to do the same thing.
You know what encourages me is that the people that do that and they do it in the freezing cold.
Yeah.
It's something that they don't need to do, but they do it. They go out there in the freezing cold, in the minus, and they stand up. They stand up, and that's what that's what's getting Trump's attention. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, he likes to be the most popular guy in the country, and with the polls and with the people in the streets, it's not playing out that way. And whether he admits it or not, he's noticing it. The people around him are
Uh-huh.
noticing it, and it just adds more problems to the midterms. I think Donald Trump is terrified about the midterms going blue
Oh.
because
Mm-hmm.
basically it will castrate him as a president. He won't be able to do anything for 2 years. He will probably get impeached for a third time, and there'll be nothing but investigations in Congress against everybody, including Donald Trump. It's going to be a horrible 2 years if the Democrats take control.
And that's where he's shaking in his boots right now. Hmm.
He is. He's crying about it. He was at the
Uh-huh.
national. He was at the national prayer meeting, and he was ranting and raving and talking about stupid bullshit. And he says, if they win, I'm going to get impeached again. Motherfucker,
you,
you deserved it.
you know, I remember when George Bush Jr. Was running for president. I said, "This country can't elect him," and you could tell a candidate, by the way he speaks, the way he carries on. And yet, you could tell George Bush was like uneducated. He couldn't phrase a sentence. And I said, there's no way that this country can elect Bush, and
You would
two
think that.
terms.
Well, I often said that George W. Bush was the dumbest president we ever have had
and,
at that point.
and
And now that we have Donald Trump, I can honestly say I miss George W. Bush.
and that's bad when you when you're crying for the junior.
Yeah, yeah, George. I mean, he seems like a reasonable guy by
Not
comparison.
now. Uh-huh.
And
At
I,
least at least he followed the Constitution. At least. Mm.
Well, I think one of the problems we have with Donald Trump, everybody said, we need to run this country like a business. We need a businessman. But unfortunately, Donald Trump knows nothing about how government runs, and he thinks he can just say whatever he wants and do whatever he wants, and people will have to do it. Uh, Whoever we elect as president next time around, we don't need another celebrity. We need somebody who understands the
Oh, a
system. That's
business
why
person. We don't need a business person.
this isn't a business.
It's not. Uh-huh.
Well, and
And
that's why Joe Biden was so successful. He'd been into the Senate and in Congress for 40
uh,
years. He knows how the system runs.
and that's what Kamala would have brought. That's what
Yeah,
Kamala would have brought to the country. She would have brought stability. You know, when George Bush was the reason I say that I couldn't believe that George Bush could be elected was because Clinton had good two terms, two good
yeah.
terms, and you would think this country would follow that trajectory, but they didn't. And look what George Bush brought: two walls and he left the country in a depression.
Not to mention 9/11. Um, yeah, and he left it in a depression. 2008
Hmm.
was a horrible time. Um, Obama comes in, brings us back
Uh-huh.
from the depths, goes from 2008 to 2000 what um, 16, 2016 or so, and he brought this country back economically.
Back.
Yet when you talk about Republicans, they say, "Oh, Obama fucked up, but George Bush was good." They don't fucking remember how bad it was.
Bill Clinton left George Bush with a surplus.
Yeah, and
The,
a
the first
balanced
time,
budget.
the first time in this country's history with a big surplus. And
Yeah,
what did George Bush do? He sank the ship.
he fucked it up. And then Obama comes in, does the
Uh-huh.
same thing, and then Donald Trump. Everybody talks about the new jobs information was coming out. I think there was like 22,000 jobs created last month, which is ridiculous. When you look at Joe Biden creating 15 million jobs in 4 years, and Donald Trump has done nothing but lost jobs, people don't remember in his first term, he was one of the few presidents that started with more jobs than when he left. He lost 2 to 300,000 jobs by the time he left. Now, COVID had something to do with that, but I blame him for COVID too for not doing anything about it.
Exactly, and that's when and you could tell that we had a competent person in the White House. That when he came in, the first thing he put his people, the people that know how to run organizations to run COVID, and and about a year or two we had it he had it under control. And
Right.
Trump, all he said was, "Oh, we'll get over it. We'll get over it." And
It's a
millions of
hoax.
people died. Million people died.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty horrific. And when anybody tries to use an excuse for Donald Trump with COVID, I just say, look, had we had a president that knew what he was doing, didn't throw out the book, didn't throw out the committee
Huh?
who was supposed to handle this stuff, it wouldn't have been. They always wanted to blame the Democratic governors for shutting down the country. Had Donald Trump done what he was supposed to do, we wouldn't have had to have those shutdowns. It wouldn't have been as bad as it was. This was an absolute fuck up by Donald Trump, and anything bad
Oh,
that happened because of COVID was his fault.
it, like the saying goes, everything that Trump touches just goes to shit. You
Yeah.
know, and people that work for him too. They pay the price. And when will this country wake up to that? That's my question. When
Well,
is this country going to?
I think a lot of people have, but unfortunately, the people that haven't are still in power. You want to talk about everything he touches go to shit. Let's talk about, excuse me, the Kennedy Center. Okay, he changed it to the Trump Kennedy Center, and he made a
This
lot of
guy,
changes. And now nobody wants
oh
to work there.
man, another now to think about that. One of the first things that Congress should do or the Democrats when they get into when they get the houses, investigate Trump for what he did to the White House, the East Room, the East.
Yeah,
I
the East Wing.
mean,
Yeah.
the East Wing. He did that without permits. He has to go through Congress to do any changes to that property.
Well, that's the thing that always bothers me, though, is they always say he can't do that. It's against the Constitution. Yet he does it anyway.
Yeah,
Why don't
anyway,
we have some? Why don't we have some way of stopping him if the Constitution is so strong? I question
and
the Constitution now because if you just want to step on it, you can.
or the Republicans, these Republicans, imagine if Bill Clinton or Obama would have done that. Oh man, I mean, they would have been impeaching before the ink dries. They would have had those papers. Before Bill Clinton or Obama blinked. If,
Well,
if they would have thought, even if they would have thought about it.
and I think you make a good point too about the Democrats have to be strong. When this is all over, there's a lot of crimes, there's a lot of
Oh
corruption
my
that have to be
God!
addressed. We've got to
The,
do a lot of investigations, maybe as something separate from the government. But if the Democratic Party, if they get power and they just let it go and move on, there's going to be a lot of people in this country pissed. There's been no accountability for 10 years, and people need
uh-huh.
that to get closure.
And the Congress needs to, they need to grow those cojones, as large as pineapples or watermelons.
Yeah.
Because this guy is running the country like it's his personal business.
And he
He's running it
bankrupts
into
his
the
personal
ground.
business. Well, yeah, he's running it like his personal business, but he's bankrupted every business he's ever
Exactly,
had.
man.
That doesn't bode well for the future of this country.
And look all the money he's making. This guy, he's gonna come out of this. term, out of this term, more rich than the first term.
Maybe, maybe because here's. Do you really believe he's going to make it through the end of this term? You've seen him on
I hope
TV.
not. I hope not. I hope, I'm not a religious person, but I hope this motherfucker has a stroke or something.
Well, it
Oh,
sounds like he's already had one stroke. All we need is one more to finish the fucking job, or
oh
or
man.
or or have a Big Mac lodge in his gullet and let him suffocate.
If I was one of those Secret Service that got him, I would just walk away. let him,
Yeah.
let
You
him
know it's funny.
choke.
We've had presidents die in office, Lincoln, Kennedy, Garfield, some other people, and it's always been a very solemn moment. I mean, when Kennedy was killed, I know people were crying and upset. It was
Uh-huh.
terrifying. I don't think people are ready for what's going to happen when Donald Trump dies. I think Republicans are going to be appalled that it's going to be like fucking a nationwide Mardi Gras. It's really going to be that
Exactly.
crazy.
People go outside in the street banging drums, banging pans, banging somebody's head against, banging a Republican against a car.
I got to tell you, I can't wait till that happens, and I'm as joyous as I will be dancing in the streets and doing that stuff. The first Republican that comes up to me and tries to shame me for my behavior, they don't know me very well. They already, they'll come to my page and they go, "Oh, look at you lowering yourself to calling names." I said, "You guys have been doing it for 10 years. You just don't like it having been done back. If
Uh-huh.
you think you can shame me because I'm calling you a name, because you're a weak motherfucker, I'll call you names all fucking day."
Mike, there's so much, and the thing is, we're going to have his stench. We're going to be living with Trump's stench for years and maybe decades. That's
Yeah.
the sad thing about it. That this country is gonna live with his stench for a long time, or his
Eppy,
family.
Eppy, do you have kids, grandkids, stuff?
I have a daughter. She doesn't have any kids now. She's middle age,
Okay. Don't you
but she
don't
does.
whether you have kids and or grandkids, don't you feel a certain responsibility as a older guy like me to fight as much as
Oh,
we can
uh-huh.
so that our kids aren't left with a pile of shit when we're dead?
Certainly, certainly, and that's what's sad about this country, Mike. That we don't, or this new generation that's coming up. I don't know how to put it, but we don't. It, uh, it, the family unit is not as close as it used to be,
True.
and it's sad. With phones the way they are now and computers, everybody. I remember watching a photo. Um, this family, they went to visit their, like, I believe it was their grandmother, and the grandmother was like sitting in a corner. And meanwhile, all the grandkids and the kids, they were all on their phones,
Oh.
doing whatever. And that picture tells a lot about today's society.
Well,
You
I
know.
think you're absolutely right about that. Family is where it all starts, and I think
Hmm.
I'm fortunate in that my family is pretty close. My kids, my grandkids,
Uh-huh.
brother, sisters, and stuff like that. We're all pretty close, and I think that's important. That makes a big difference going on into the future and kind of training these young kids of what they should be doing. I think the downfall of the family is a big part of what's going
It's
on in
not.
this country. What I
It's
see,
not.
what I see in this country who vote for Donald Trump and stuff like this, it's a very selfish type of thing. It's all about me. I don't care about
Uh-huh.
anybody else. I just
Yeah.
want what I want. And I think that's where the trouble starts in this country and why we vote for the fuckheads we vote for.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
How do you change that though?
Huh?
How do you
Oh,
change that? I mean, that's a lot of people to change their
yeah.
lifestyles and.
you can't move the clock back. I I believe there's an organization or a group of people that do. I think it's like once a year. I can't remember if it's a week or a day that they do that. No television, no phone for. I think it's for a week. I remember hearing about it a while back, but I haven't followed up on that. But I mean, it's a good gesture, but to have the whole country to follow that, I don't think is viable or feasible.
Well, I know I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, and she's a pistol. She's hard to do. She's a great kid, but she likes
Hmm.
looking at her tablet and doing all that
Uh-huh.
stuff. And her mom and dad are kind of against it, and grandma certainly is against it. And she'll sit in my car when she's going someplace with my wife and I, and she'll say, Grandpa, can I have your phone so she can look at YouTube and watch all the stuff? And grandma will say, no, no, we're not going to do that. But what we found is if you interact with the kids and you sing songs with them or play games with them, they'll be distracted
Uh-huh.
from the screens and be just as happy to have fun a different way. And I think that's the effort that has to be made by parents and grandparents. It's real easy, you want the kid out of your hair, give them a tablet, let them watch a movie or Miss Rachel or whatever the fuck, and then you've got some peace um, for an hour or so. But I will
Mhm.
tell young parents, if you do take the easy route now, you're going to pay for it later. You're going to be dealing with a much more
Uh-huh.
difficult situation when they're teenagers.
Uh-huh. I believe that, Mike. I too. It sounds like old fashioned, but I strongly believe that.
Well, it's old fashioned, but look how you and I ended up, Eppy.
Hmm.
We didn't have screen time. We watched TV now and again, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, there does need to be going back to some old style family stuff, and I don't mean going back in time like Project 2025. The idea that women should be second. I mean, they got people that want to repeal an amendment giving women the vote. They literally are talking about that out loud.
I
How
know.
can
And that's a crazy thing, Mike. That these were Republican women, and who's supporting that? The Republican Party, or the
yeah,
whatever that foundation is that that did the
Heritage
2025,
Fund.
the
Yeah, Heritage
Heritage. Uh-huh.
Foundation.
They want to bring back women to they can stay in the house, and cook for the man, or be the housekeeper. No, no, no free independence. No, the women's lib, will be shoved into a closet or a suitcase. It's
All I
and,
got to
and
say, all I got to
I,
say is if you want to try to get women to do that,
you're gonna have
I'll let you talk to my wife, and I'm not giving you very good odds on that. I know I've
they're
been
gonna
married
have a
42
fight.
years. Yeah.
In my understanding, is some of these Supreme Court justices are Alito and Clarence, I believe, they're supporting that. You know,
Did you hear that Clarence is in the Epstein files too? Big surprise.
no, I did not. No.
Yeah, his name shows up in there too a lot. I don't know about Alito, but Clarence shows up in there. And Clarence, Clarence has been a mess since he started. The whole thing with Anita
Oh
Hill when he
man,
came in, he should have never been put in the
you
Supreme
know,
Court.
you know what I remember too, Mike? The his confirmation hearing. Where
Yeah,
Anita Day, Anita. I
Anita
can't
Hill.
remember. Anita Hill, And who's the better person? Who's the better person? Anita Hill. No controversy, no nothing. She just goes about her business, low key. You know,
I thought it would have been awesome if Biden could have made a nomination for the Supreme Court and he nominated Anita Hill. That would have been
I know
hilarious.
that. Imagine that sitting next to Clarence Thomas on the bench.
Yeah, Clarence
That
Thomas
would have
is
been something. Is she an
Clarence
attorney?
Thomas. Yeah, oh yeah, she's an attorney.
Oh,
Very good one too. She's a very good
I
one,
thought she
and
was just a, I thought she was just a professor, but I didn't know what
well, she may be
category.
a she may be a professor. Let me just pull her up here. Yeah, she's a lawyer and an educator. She's 70
Uh-huh.
years old, 69 years old. She's a little older than me.
She
She
looks
would
good
actually,
too.
yeah, she looks great.
Hmm.
Looks better than Clarence Thomas, for fuck's sake.
Or his fat wife.
Well, you know what's funny about his wife? I don't know if you know this. His wife, well, when she was younger, she was in a cult. Um,
Yeah, wait, I read that. No, I think I saw something on PBS about Clarence Thomas, and yeah, yeah, she was in a cult. Before she
yeah,
met
she was.
him.
Well, she was in a cult, and then she joined another cult, the Trump cult. She's susceptible to cults. What I find interesting is when you talk about making women second class citizens and pushing back against mixed marriages. Fucking Clarence Thomas is married to a white woman. How? I think it just goes back to what we said before. Everybody else can't have this, but I'm fine because I'm Clarence Thomas. That's the entitlement we're
Uh-huh.
seeing from these fucks.
Yeah. Well, his controversy with the money, taking money. I don't need to report it. I'm a Supreme Court justice. I'm above that. Mm,
Yeah, you know, they keep talking
unbelievable.
about George. I get a
Unbelievable.
kick out of, they say George Soros is paying for all the protesters. Now,
That's
George
what
Soros is cut.
all the Republicans, they go to George Soros. Even the guy, I don't know, he might be dead by now. You
Yeah.
don't hear a beep from him, and everything the Democrats do is George Soros, George Soros.
Well, you know, the thing about it is, I saw somebody saying they're getting paid like $4,000 a month to protest. And I was trying to figure out if you're paying 4,000 people or $4,000 a month for, well, what we had in Minnesota at one point, 70,000 um, times
4,000 a
4,000,
head? Well, that be in the billions, no?
that's 280 million a month. I don't
A
think George
month.
Soros is paying it. But at the same time, we know Harlan Crow is paying to play with Clarence Thomas, buying him
Thomas,
RVs, buying his mom's house. I mean, Harlan Crow is basically Clarence Thomas's sugar daddy. He
Sugar.
hands him money, and Clarence Thomas does whatever he fucking tells him. I personally think one of the biggest problems we have in this country that we've got to rectify when we get reasonable people running the country is we've got to straighten out the Supreme Court because with an illegitimate Supreme Court, it's hard to maintain democracy.
And not only that, Mike, but take money out of politics. That's one thing that irks me when Democrats come asking for money. I mean, why don't you guys give me money? Because here I am. I have to move to another country because I can't afford to pay my rent in the states. And yet, you know, elections should either you there has to be another way to fund elections. It has to be. You have to take money out of. You, we complain about other countries being corrupt. You know, yeah,
We we are much better.
mhm.
I mean,
We're
you're talking
not.
about
No.
Citizens United is the thing where
Uh
money
huh.
goes in and they can do whatever they want. That was controversial when they put it in. The Republicans put it in, and you're right. That has to
Uh
come
huh.
out right away. That's part of our problem.
Right away, and he needs to and then and I see a lot of creative people in TikTok. They come up with good ideas about how to fix this country. And one of the I don't know about term limit. I think what I would like to see is that no representative do do have anything to do with the stock market. That
I agree.
shouldn't be that should be a no. No, there's
Well,
no uh,
people always say, "Oh, we got to have term limits," and I agree that's a good idea. Unfortunately, it's never going to happen because who
uh,
decides whether you have term limits? Fucking Congress decides. They're not going to put term limits on themselves.
on
They're there to
themselves.
benefit themselves. They're not going to put
Hmm.
term limits on. So, as much as it sounds great, it's never going to happen.
If I was to run for Congress and let's say I do get in the House, I could be a millionaire within 10 years. Five term.
Quicker than that. Quicker than that.
Uh-huh. That's insane. These people are there to represent us, not to, become millionaires. They're there to represent, the people of the states, not to become millionaires and, I don't know.
Well, the
There's a
thing is,
lot of,
they're
hmm
there to represent us and serve us. But
uh-huh.
unfortunately, they do what a lot of lawyers do and a lot of financial planners do. They'll serve you, but they'll serve themselves first.
The
And if,
first,
as long as they can benefit, if you can benefit a little, they'll do it, but they're the priority. And that's the unfortunate
uh-huh.
thing about members of Congress. They're in it for themselves, and their job is to serve us. They're confused.
Exactly. One of the creators on one of his ideas was that no representative should be traveling abroad, to do any business. His
Yeah.
business should be in Congress, and we shouldn't be financing his trip abroad or whatever. If he wants to go on a junket with some millionaire, let that millionaire put the money up, or don't go at all. No, because that's buying his loyalty.
If you're a senator or a representative and
Hmm.
you want to travel, the only place you should be traveling is to the district or the state you represent. There is no
Exactly.
reason to go to other states or out of the country because
Or out
there's
of the
something
country.
other to this whole
Hmm.
situation. Yeah, I agree. Well,
Uh-huh.
Epi, I'm going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. We're at that point. We get about to that hour and a half point, and I tend to wrap things up. I want to thank you for
Hmm.
coming on. We had a little
No,
trouble last week, but we got it done this week.
thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure meeting you and seeing you in person. Or not
Well,
in
I
person,
appreciate.
but on screen.
Well, at least, yeah, directly. Um, Epi, you're more than welcome to come on anytime. Anybody who's been on the show, they just send me a text and say, I'm ready to come back on, and just let me know, and we work it out depending on who's what and who's on. But you're more than welcome to come back anytime. It's good to hear from you, and straight
Thank
out
you,
of
Mike.
Mexico.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
You be well.
All right, thank you. For those of you listening, I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.